Hello, Math 141. This is for section 3.3, graphs of polynomial functions. So our goal here is we're provided a rational function, q of x is equal to 4 all over the expression x squared minus 4x minus 5. And what we want to do is determine the domain. In other words, what are the x values or the input values that I am allowed to use and not run into any trouble. So what I can tell you straight away is that your I should be going to that denominator. We want to note that a denominator cannot be equal to 0. Basically because we are not able to divide by 0. We cannot divide something into nothing. Before we actually go further, I do want to call out the numerator. Here we have a 4, and honestly, for this problem, when you were trying to figure out the domain of a rational function, the numerator does not come into play. So you can have any number in the numerator. It's not going to matter to you. So what I want you to do is basically ignore what's going on up here. Just ignore it. Ignore it. So anyway, I'm going to maybe clean that up a little bit more. Okay, so our entire focus is going to be on this denominator. And lucky us, it's just a quadratic expression. So what we want to maybe try and do is see if we can factor it. Spoiler alert, in this case, we can. So for this one, x squared, I know I can break that into an x and an x. My next thing that I want to pay attention to is I know that my when I FOIL, my last terms have to result in a -5. So that must mean that one must be plus, one must be minus. And I know that when I do the O and the I, or in other words, the inner and the outer of the FOIL, my term should become a -4. So that tells me that whatever two factors I pick that will multiply together to be 5, the larger of them needs to be negative, and when I add those two numbers together, I should get a -4. Well, the good news is, I mean, with a 5, my only option would be 5 and 1, because 5 is a prime number. So now what I can go ahead and do is use my zero product property and break this up. And I'm actually going to reveal what x values I'm not allowed to use. I'm telling you that x cannot be -1 and x cannot be a +5. Now, what we can do is we could also do a rough sketch of what this would look like. And I did do that on the previous video, so I would encourage you to go ahead and consult that one if you would like. But in this particular case, I just know that I can't use a -1 and or a +5. So when I'm calling out what this domain should be, I'm basically saying I can use everything from -infinity up to -1. I just need to call that out and use a rounded parenthesis in order to tell you you can get close to -1, but you're not allowed to use it or touch it. So we're basically going to union, and in doing this, we're hopping over the -1. And I can use everything. It's smooth sailing until I get to 5. Can't use that one. So I'm going to hop over it and then start using anything bigger than it. So as a result, here is my domain. This is essentially saying the same thing. I'm allowed to use any number I want for my input except for -1 or +5. I hope this video helps. If you have any questions, please let me know.